2.1 Monasteries. Until the 12th century, culture was shut away in monasteries. Monks were virtually the only people who could read and write. Much of their work took place at the desks in the monastery library, where they made copies of works of the early Christian thinkers. Although Greco-Roman culture was not completely rejected, only that which was compatible with Christian doctrine was accepted. This limited the amount of knowledge and dissemination of classic works. 2.2 Universities. With the urban growth of the High Middle Ages, cultural activity moved to cities. Thanks to the bishops of cities like Paris and Chartres, schools associated with the local cathedral were founded. The first universities, or studia generalia, emerged from these schools in the 13th century. Students studied arts, law, medicine, and theology. The most important were the Sorbonne, Paris, which was attended by the greatest intellectuals, and the universities of Oxford, England, and Bologna, Italy. From the 13th century on, there was a shift in philosophical thought through the work of the Muslim philosopher Averroes, who helped spread Aristotle's ideas in the West. The most important medieval philosopher was Thomas Aquinas, whose work synthesized Christian and Aristotelian thought and who had a big influence on European culture. 2.3 Literature in Romance languages. After the fall of the Roman Empire, Latin evolved into the Romance languages: French, Portuguese, Castilian, Catalan, etc. However, Latin remained the language of culture in ecclesiastical and university spheres for many centuries. Therefore, the languages used by intellectuals and spoken by the people were different. From the 13th century, literature in Romance languages was consolidated. 2.4 The advancement of secular culture. During the High and Late Middle Ages, along with commercial and urban growth, there was a strong increase in the number of intellectuals who were not clergymen. They were law experts, poets, or historians who not only lived in the courts of kings and nobles, but also attended to the cultural demands of the bourgeoisie. The 14th century, with its many conflicts, was marked by a strongly pessimistic way of thinking and an obsession with death. This was reflected in art and literature, with the artistic genre called the dance of death. In Italian cities, this was the century of the precursors of humanism, with poets such as Dante, Boccaccio, and Petrarch emerging. This cultural trend spread beyond the Italian peninsula during the 15th century. It was focused on the concept of the individual and a view of the world that was more independent of religion, as well as being influenced by the philosophies of classical antiquity.